Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. I'm Jace, along with Rocky from Comic Boom, and we're going to be talking today about Hulk #1. It's not Immortal Hulk. It's not Incredible Hulk. It's not Avenging Hulk. It's just plain Hulk. There's been a few times in the history of Hulk and the history of Marvel Comics where there's been this adjectiveless version of Hulk. This is another one. It's by Donny Cates and Ryan Otley. I would say it's been highly anticipated. Donny Cates has a loyal fan base. I'm not somebody I would consider a Donny Cates fan. I'm actually more a fan of his independent stuff than I am his stuff that he's done over at Marvel. And you know, nothing against Donny. I've met him a few times. Super nice, very passionate about his work. Very much came up as a fan of these characters, and I sort of feel a little bit like that's part of the problem, where he'll come up with this idea like, man, this would be really cool. And it is a cool idea, but can you really base a whole story or run on it? Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I didn't read his Venom run, and I'm not reading his Thor run, which some people talk about that's some of the best stuff he's done. I read his Thanos stuff. I thought it was okay. I read his Cosmic Ghost Rider stuff where I started to. Couldn't get past issue 3. It just didn't work for me. You know, because again, it's that idea. Hey, you know what would be cool? What if we turn Ghost Rider into this cosmic character? Oh, you know what would be even cooler? What if it's Punisher instead of Johnny Blaze? Like, again, those are like cool ideas for a what if issue, but to me, it doesn't stand the test of time. So all that being said, there's been some real mixed reviews I've seen so far on Hulk #1, with maybe if it leans one way toward the other, I'd say more people seem to not like it or be confused by it than the positive reviews that I've seen. But again, we're recording this on Wednesday. It's the first day that it came out. So, and even I feel like it's hard to judge it off of one issue, but we're going to do a breakdown here. And I'm sort of hoping as Rock and I go through this that I get a better understanding of what it is I don't like about it. And maybe it turns out I'll like it more than I thought after reading. I've read it twice. And like I said, we're going to go through it one more time. So right off the bat, I'm saying this did not work for me, but we're going to break it down and talk about it. And I also should add as one last thing before I let Rocky give his initial impressions is I don't want to say I was biased going in and said I wasn't going to like it. I wanted to like it. And there are some concepts, some ideas that I think are cool. Like, you know, that's what Donnie does.
Yeah. But
coming out of Immortal Hulk, when I heard Donny Cates and Ryan Otley were doing this, and we heard a few kind of clues about what it was going to be about, like Hulk in space, I already talked about the fact that despite most people's absolute love, critical acclaim of Immortal Hulk, that for me it dragged on a little too long. And although it was an interesting idea, getting into the man or monster thing of Hulk and the body horror part of it, there's a part of me, the part of me that's a Hulk fan, the part of me that used to love watching the Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno Hulk show. I want the Hulk to be a hero. The Hulk is a superhero, right? I mean, I feel like in the last 2 decades, Marvel's lost sight of that, and he's become just this menace, this catastrophe, this walking natural disaster. And certainly there's always been that aspect of him. But I miss the Peter David days when he was actually a hero and he was doing good. And I kind of wanted to return to that. And instead we went from Immortal Hulk, totally different, fresh take on the Hulk. It's fine to do that from time to time. But I was hoping, okay, Immortal Hulk's going to end. Can we get back to a little more traditional Hulk? And then if you want to do something like this crazy stuff that Cates is doing, maybe do that down the road. So I was a little apprehensive going in. So maybe that's coloring my initial impressions of it. I don't think it is. I'm trying to be objective. I guess we'll see when we go through it. But anyway, Rocky, what did you think? Did you like this? Did it work for you? What are your thoughts?
I generally liked it. I'll be more specific in some of my observations and maybe some constructive criticism. Dare I call it constructive as we go through it. You know, as I'm normally a DC Comics guy, but what I love about Donny Cates, I've always referred to as Donny Cates, and I'm not alone in this. I always refer to him as the Jeff Johns of the Marvel Universe. The guy's a master at taking complex subjects and complex Marvel properties with rich histories and sort of like simplifying them for new readers. He did that for me with Thor, with Venom. I mean, God, I hated Venom. I never, yeah, I'd have told you were crazy if I'd ever read a Venom comic. Good Lord. But I read his Venom. I'm enjoying his Thor. I love his Cosmic Ghost Rider. It's cool stuff. I mean, to the extent that I'm part of, I collected a lot more Marvel in the last few years simply because of Donny Cates. And, my initial impressions here, I like the idea of, I always get it. Is it David Banner or Bruce Banner? I always confuse the TV show and the Marvel. Is it,
Yeah, it's so that's funny.
is it,
It's
is it,
Bruce Banner.
it's Bruce Banner in there.
It's Bruce Banner, and the reason it's David Banner in the TV show is because the showrunner specifically didn't like the alliteration
Right.
because he thought it made it sound like fake and comic booky. Like I
Yeah.
just recently watched a documentary about the TV show where
Yeah.
the guy was doing everything he could to distance it from the comics. He even
So
wanted to make
stupid.
the Hulk not green because he was. I mean, you got to think of the time period. Comics
Yeah.
were still considered kids stuff
I,
back then, and he was
I
he's a
guess.
serious filmmaker and TV guy, and he
Yeah.
wanted it to be a serious and people to take it serious. So that's why he changed it um, from Bruce Banner to David Banner. But then, of course, in the regular Marvel universe, even Stanley himself forgot that it was Bruce Banner and called him Robert Banner, and then so then it became wait. So I think his name is technically Robert David Bruce Banner. Like if you look at his official
Yeah.
handbook of the Marvel universe, he's
I,
got like four names.
yeah. Well,
Hilarious.
I generally, I've always, mostly always called him Bruce Banner, and that's what I guess I'll call him now. But I like the agency and the power that Donny Cates' approach gives to Bruce Banner. I like the fact of the matter is I feel so I've always Bruce Banner is always well we're gonna get into it here, but there's some really great moments here. There's some great lines of dialogue here and comments made by Bruce Banner himself. It's everybody wants to read the Incredible Hulk or the Immortal Hulk or the Gray Hulk or the Mr. Fix-It, but how many people really read the Hulk for Bruce Banner? Very, I mean, really, and yet at the same time, you almost got to. Bruce Banner is always like the inconvenient truth of the Hulk, the inconvenient sidekick, and this is one. It's giving more agency and a little bit more power to Bruce Banner here, and I think it's a good approach. And right on the cover, what if the Hulk exists to protect us from Banner? It's interesting. It implies that maybe Banner is the dark side. Like it's flipping the script, and I kind of like it because it gives Banner some much needed attention. I guess not that I guess Immortal Hulk did that to a certain extent as well, but really that was Al Ewing's run was always about the different versions of the Hulk. So following up Al Ewing's run with this run that maybe gives more gravitas to the Banner side of things, I think it works for me. It's definitely got my attention, but we'll get into it, and maybe our opinions will change by the time we get to the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I would say the people that read the Hulk and are huge fans of Banner are the people like me who absolutely love the TV show. I mean, Bill Bixby's an incredible actor. He brought gravitas to the role. Again, I just do a search for Hulk documentary. It's on you. You can watch it on YouTube. That's where I watched it. It's
Yeah.
fascinating to hear about the history of Bill Bixby and him deciding to come on the show and whatnot. So, I mean, I love Bruce Banner, and that's part of the reason that this is not working for me. It's part of the reason for the last 2 decades I haven't liked what Marvel's done with the Hulk. Certainly in the last half of Al Ewing's run, it was more about the monster than the man. Like when I talked to Al Ewing in 2018 at New York City Comic Con when Immortal Hulk was, I think it was like right around issue 8 or 10, somewhere in there. So it was early goings, but it was critically acclaimed. It was selling like gangbusters. And I sat down with him, and he said he really took it back to basics, all the way back to the very first issue, that question in the first issue, man or monster. And with Banner basically trapped in, the place below in the second half of Al Ewing's run, the last 25 issues of that run, it was all focused on the monsters, the different versions of the Hulk that had nothing to do with Banner. So I do agree with you that it's nice to see Banner coming back as the main character here. But right away, I'm turned off by that sentence on the bottom of the front cover there, the one thing that we didn't redact, as we're going to go through this page by page. What if the Hulk exists to protect us from Banner? I do agree. It is an interesting question, but you're flipping the Hulk you're turning Banner, that right away insinuates negativity toward Banner. That Banner's not a sympathetic character. I don't like that because I am a fan of Bruce Banner. I think Bruce Banner is one of the most tormented and heroic characters in the Marvel universe. Maybe next to Peter Parker might be the exception, who might be a little more heroic. But everything that Banner's gone through and has done, and he's always tried to do the right thing despite what he's been carrying around in him. I mean, it's just unbelievable what he has to deal with. Now you're going to turn around and say, oh, Banner's the bad guy. Like, Hulk exists to protect us from Banner. Banner's this malevolent, evil scientist guy. And I guess in a way that draws, I'm talking about how much I love the Peter David run. The one thing I'm not a big fan of in the Peter David run, and it wasn't in the regular book, is Future Imperfect.
Yeah.
That idea that far in the future, the Hulk takes over everything, and he's more intelligent. Seems like he's drawing from the Banner side, but then it gets mixed up with the fact that, so is this Banner that actually turns evil? I don't know. That just never worked for me. So yeah, as we go through here, we'll talk about it, various moments with Banner where I'm worried that that's the thing that Donny Cates is going to take us back to. The idea, what if the Hulk exists to protect us from Banner? Again, I will say, great idea for a one shot, a what if issue, but for a whole series, I don't know. That I might not be a fan of that, of turning Banner into somebody who's not a good guy. So anyway, as we turn to the first page, we see that there's a voiceover, and we see that the Hulk is trying to escape from some prison that he's in. You can see in that bottom right panel there's a bunch of indentations from where he's punching the wall. And who's ever giving this voiceover here is telling us, we've always thought of the Hulk as this, basically, Banner's trauma come to life, right? Banner's trauma was brought to life and given shape and form and strength because of his exposure to the gamma radiation. The bomb goes off, the Hulk is created. But what if it's not Bruce Banner's id? What if it's not his rage? What if instead, and we're going to that question on the cover there, what if the Hulk is none of those things? What if he exists to protect us from Banner? Like, clearly that's going to be, it's on the cover. It's the first sort of question that's raised, the first big idea from Cates here. And that's the idea that's going to be explored. Like, Banner's this malevolent, evil scientist. I've never seen anything, discounting the last couple decades, like I've talked about, last couple eras of the Hulk, I guess we'll say, where, as I said earlier, Marvel seems to have wanted to get away from portraying the Hulk as a hero. It's never been, this idea never would have even worked, I think, at that point. There was never a question of Banner having anything but the best of intentions. Maybe it's just a subversion of character. They're running out of ideas and stories to tell. The anti-hero becomes the hero. The villain becomes the anti-hero, becomes the hero, like we've seen in a lot of cases. Or you flip it and the bad guy becomes the good guy. Well, isn't that the line?
I just want to interject, though. I just want to interject quickly and say that's just a question posed, and I'm wondering if that question, what if the Hulk exists to protect us from Banner, that might be misdirection. That might be misdirection right on the cover of the very first issue, and that maybe that's not where this story might end up. I mean, because it is just a what if question. It's not, I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there, because as we get into this, I got a different interpretation of this first issue that I might be completely wrong about, but that makes Bruce Banner look more heroic than just this bad guy.
I don't know. Knowing what we know of Cates, and based on past experience, that's all I have to go on.
Yeah,
that he 100% would, and I'm not even saying that he's going to make Banner completely evil, but I think he's definitely pushing him more to that gray area. And again, yeah, we'll talk about it. So yeah, we continue to see through the Ryan Otley's art here, Hulk's trying to break through. He seems to be trapped in some big giant tower. And then finally we see Banner walking away, and I'm assuming that that's the other side of the door that the Hulk's trying to break through. As we see that at the top of the page, engine engaged, ready for launch. Like, wait, what? So that wasn't a big giant tower at all that the Hulk's trying to break out of. He's trying to break out of a spaceship. Like, what exactly is going on? Then we get the title page, Smashtronaut. It's called, not astronaut, but Smashtronaut. It is interesting. It says by Donny Cates and Ryan Otley. No one's credited as writer or artist. Frank Martin is colors, Corey Petit does letters. So that is interesting. Otley must have a lot to do with the story, because Cates is not specifically naming him just as artist. Um, although Donny Cates can draw, I don't think he added any art to this book. Uh, so interesting. Anyway, and there's a bunch of variant covers as well. So anyway, moving on, we see that Bruce is there talking to Betty rather, and she's asking what he's doing. And this is where we start to get a little bit of context. Apparently something terrible happened in El Paso, and Bruce has managed to lock the Hulk up. So we're not like, are they separated? Like what exactly is going on? We're not sure. Betty's sort of pleading the case. He's just a child. Why are you trapping him? And I love Bruce's response to that. Like he's just a child. Bruce is like, have you ever seen The Omen? Damien was just a child in The Omen too. So I thought that was a pretty good line.
Yeah.
But Betty's point is Bruce and the Hulk in her mind are not necessarily different, right? So if Banner's hurting the Hulk by locking him up, isn't he really hurting himself?
Yeah. That's what's interesting, is that you have that dichotomy, and I think that's why different readers and even you and I can have different perspectives on this, because it's sort of like how you conceive of the Hulk. Is it all part of one psyche? But I mean, often writers treat the Hulk differently than Banner, but yet this Betty is always, I guess, Betty, to her credit, maybe that's why both the Hulk and Bruce Banner love her, is that she loves the whole package, warts and all. But here, Bruce Banner here is showing a lot of agency. I view him as, if there's a separation here and he's caging the Hulk and he's in control, for once he's in control, because most of the time it's often just the Hulk guided by the rage. And this is Bruce Banner being the captain of this particular story, so to speak, as opposed to the Hulk. And until I see otherwise in the story, I'm not going to hold anything against Bruce Banner. But I do want to make one note about Ryan Otley's art here, and it's obvious throughout this entire opening issue, is that there's only one character, in my view, that's more angry than the Hulk in this issue, and that's actually Bruce Banner. And I find that very interesting.
The problem. That's the problem. That's one of the things I don't like about it, because here's the thing. In this issue, with how we see it play out, Betty's clearly the angel on Banner's shoulder, right? Or the Hulk's shoulder, however you want to see it. And she's, in a lot of ways, always been that. It's sort of a classic part of who the Hulk is.
Yeah.
You know who the devil is on Bruce Banner's shoulder, or on the Hulk's shoulder? It's himself.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like about it. That's where already you can see, just with the expression, with the anger, the negativity of Bruce Banner, that's not the point. That's never been the point of Bruce Banner. Even look at what they did in the MCU, the Edward Norton Hulk movie, which I feel is very underrated. He's always trying to find his zen. He's trying to find his peace. He knows the way to control the Hulk is not through anger. What are you going to outrage the Hulk? You're going to have more rage and more anger than the Hulk? No, he's a weapon of rage. It doesn't make sense.
Let me just play devil's advocate to your point, because I don't disagree with it, but who's to say Bruce Banner's not entitled to a little bit of anger once in a while? Anger's a good motivator. I refuse in this opening issue. Obviously, it's an opening issue, but I think that there might be some misdirection here. I'm going to give Bruce Banner the benefit of the doubt here. He's entitled to be angry. He's finally maybe more in control of the Hulk than is normally the case. I'm prepared to cut Bruce Banner a lot of slack here. And even though Ryan Otley draws him almost looking evil, like Otley is not, he's sort of, the way he's drawing Banner here, he's almost constantly drawing Banner here with the scowl on his face, and he looks as angry as the Hulk, and I'm wondering if that's maybe being a little bit disingenuous to Banner himself, because he's entitled to be a little bit of angry once in a while, and for once he can be angry but still in control of the Hulk, as opposed to that transformation occurring. And that's what I find that very, very fascinating. But anyway.
No, I don't, because it's not for once. You yourself admitted we've seen Banner angry before. We've seen Banner angry before and in charge, when he was the Professor Hulk, when Peter David merged all his different psyches together and Banner was still in charge and he still had the intelligence. he still got plenty angry, especially when he went after the Pantheon. So it's not like this hasn't been done before. So it feels derivative. It also feels reductive to Banner, right? Because all of this, first I'm supposed to believe it doesn't make any sense. First I'm supposed to believe, or the question is raised. I'm supposed to be considering, what if the Hulk exists to protect us from Banner? Because Banner is so intelligent and such a threat, and he's so broken and from all the trauma that he's actually dangerous, and the Hulk is supposed to protect us from Banner, right? So that's what I'm supposed to believe, that he's the super intelligent actual threat. But then he's dumb enough that he's going to let the anger overcome him. Which one is it, Cates? Which one is it?
But I just want to I just want to say this, because in this one scene at the bottom, at one point, Banner says to Betty, you know, Hulk is immortal and I'm not.
Yeah,
And
let's
and
let's
and
let's
as
yeah.
a reader though, I'm wondering, at what point is Banner ever going to be able to live his life? He's been an
Well, he's
explorer,
not,
he's
and
been a scientist.
he's
I mean,
not.
and
That's the point.
well, yeah, but that's also why I'm willing to cut him some slack here, and I refuse to at this point accept on just blindly that Banner is the villain in this story, even though it's implied. I mean, I'm willing to cut him some slack to try to find some degree of happiness, and if that means locking up a part of his psyche as the Hulk, as he goes through, as he travels through space in this glorified starship, as we'll get into, I'm willing to cut Banner a lot of slack here.
I'm okay, and I want to cut Banner some slack as well. You know, we're gonna get to the immortal line because I want to go page by page. But my point is, what I have to go on is only what Cates is showing me on the page, and if he's leading me through misdirection, then great. When that issue comes out and I find out that that's the case, I'll be the first one to admit, hey, I was wrong. I actually like that, but I'm not making any assumptions. I'm only going off what is being told to me by Cates in this issue. We can guess and speculate on stuff once we get to the end, but based on what I'm seeing here, based on the question we're asked right at the beginning on the front cover, what if the Hulk is to protect us from Banner? And all I'm getting is negativity from Banner and what appears to be unintelligent emotional reaction, which is not that's not what I'm used to from Banner. When we get emotion from Banner, when we got emotion from Banner in the most recent Immortal Hulk series, it was resignation, it was depression, it was a feeling of being trapped, which is 100% logical and reasonable, and is something we've seen from Banner before. Because yeah, he does feel trapped. He can't escape. He's learned, as you mentioned, that he is immortal. He cannot die. The Hulk cannot die. He's going to be trapped with this curse forever. So to the page that Rocky has on the screen right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, here we see all that anger. Here we see Otley do a great job showing us that anger. Something terrible happened in El Paso, like I said, and Betty being the angel, as I said, saying, "Hey, it's not the Hulk's fault. He's a child." And again, Banner accepting. Rocky's right. He does have a lot of agency in this story. He is accepting the fact, I don't blame the Hulk. I blame myself. Now, is he blaming himself because he can't control the Hulk? Is he blaming himself because the Hulk exists because Banner exists? Is he blaming himself because he knows he's one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe and he hasn't been able to solve the problem of the Hulk? What is it about this? But what's clear, especially from the art that Otley gives us on this page, is that, yeah, it's all about, so far in this issue, it's all about Bruce Banner's rage, Bruce Banner being fed up. And to the point, the other thing that I want to mention that he says here is, the other heroes of the Marvel Universe, especially the Illuminati, they only consider me useful. And when he says me, he's referring to himself as an entity, Hulk included. I'm only useful to any of them when I'm not even here and I've had enough. He is fed up with it 100%. And you can understand his frustration. And it goes back, like I even remember back in Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, where he's having that angsty moment, I think it's issue 5, after they had the mountain range dropped on top of them, and Tony Stark and Reed Richards were insulting the Hulk to make him angrier so he could hold up the mountain range. And later they apologized, saying, hey, we were only doing it to give you more strength. And he's like, yeah, I realized it. I'm not that dumb. But then later he's thinking, man, am I really that dumb? I didn't realize what they were doing. What's wrong with me? I'm getting dumber. And so it's this idea that he's only useful as the Hulk, despite the fact he's Bruce Banner. He's one of the most brilliant men in the Marvel universe. So yeah, I agree with you, Rocky. Like he does have more agency, and he does have the right to be angry and frustrated, um, and depressed, and all of that. But am I supposed to buy into? I'm supposed to buy into that, and I'm also supposed to buy into that he's a threat. And I don't know. Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe the Hulk
I think
exists to
that is
protect
the
us from.
point. I think the fact that we're asking these questions is what makes the story intriguing in this opening issue. I think because I think it can be argued either way, or at least that's what I take out of it. And so I, whether even if I'm wrong, I don't care because I'm gonna be buying subsequent issues because I'm curious as hell to see where this is going.
Yeah. Again, I would be more inclined to enjoy it if these weren't questions that hadn't been asked and explored before. So it does feel like we're treading on ground that's been gone over before. Maybe Cates is going to give us different answers. But the idea of Bruce Banner saying, "I just wanted to be a man of science. I wanted to help, and I'm stuck with this curse." Yeah, we've been there, done that. Um, but again, I'm just having a hard time reconciling the rage and anger that Banner's getting with this idea that he's some sort of malevolent threat. Maybe he's a threat that's not malevolent. Maybe Banner's choices are the problem. Maybe his solution is the problem. So, um, but yeah, he gets to the point where he's fed up, and you can see it on the page Rocky has, um, on the screen right there. That again, fantastic art from Otley showing the despondency almost of Banner. Like he is tired of this. The Hulk is immortal, and I am not. Right? Like he knows he's not going to be around all the time. Is that what's driving him to come up with the final solution? What do you think, Rocky?
Uh, Well, I think, well, his despondency, yes. I mean, he himself said, I invent things, I push boundaries. I mean, it. Bear in mind, it was Banner himself who pushed the boundaries of trying to get to the root cause of his initial experiments that ultimately led to him being transformed by bombarded with gamma rays to begin with. It was because of he pushed boundaries, he took chances. This was a guy that was prepared to do whatever it took to achieve his ends as a scientist, but ultimately he paid the price for that, and he had that. It was the explosion that turned him into Hulk. So, but his core personality hasn't changed. He's still that same person. He's just, unfortunately, it's his anger that has subsumed all other aspects of his personality. And in many ways, us, in fairness, I think a lot of us readers, we're limited as to how much we can really get to know Bruce because he's always over. It's always the Hulk that, even we readers are more interested in than Banner. Banner's always sort of like the afterthought. And um, so, like I said, I like this, and Banner has my sympathy here. We get lots of Hulk, but you know, as I'll have more to say when we get into some of the more revelations as we get into the issue.
It's interesting hearing you talk about Banner that way because you're right. Despite him being somewhat of a timid character, he would get pushed around a lot by the military people that he worked for and whatnot, um, just based on his physical appearance and whatnot. But there was always an anger that was simmering underneath because of the trauma um, that he experienced as a child. And we all know the story of his abusive father and losing his mother and whatnot. Um, but the anger was, clearly he was a very repressed individual. But you know what he also was, that Rocky touched on it. He was arrogant, and that was where part of the resentment came in and why he had to repress that anger because there were all these military people telling him what to do and, judging him. And he was always the smartest guy in the room. And he resented that they looked down on him when he always saw himself as better than all of them. And you know who that reminds me of when you want to talk about a character flaw of Bruce Banner being arrogance?
Tony
Because it
Stark.
is Tony Stark, exactly, 100%. This is a little bit of Tony Stark, which is interesting because Iron Man's going to show up later in the issue. Yeah, it's a little bit of Tony Stark, but you're right because so much of the stories that have been told about Bruce have focused on the Hulk side of him. I think people forget that his core character there is some arrogance there. So and maybe it's righteously earned. He should be one of the smartest guys in the room, but I think that's why he gets so upset. And he wants to do this. He wants to push the boundaries now, because he should be he Bruce Banner in a lot of ways is still being disrespected. Is his I think what Banner is saying. I'm still being disrespected. Nobody cares about Bruce Banner. They only care about the Hulk. They only care when it's the other guy. And I Bruce Banner am not even here.
Mm.
And I am not immortal. I'm not going to be around forever. If we're going to solve this problem, we need to solve it now. So Betty's trying to reach him, and he's like, you know what? I'm not listening. Why are you even here? Go away. And he said, get out of my head. And that's the first, and she disappears. And that's the first time we get a clue that all of this is not really happening, maybe in reality. Maybe it's all happening in Bruce's head because she just disappears as the Hulk continues to try to break out with the boom, boom, boom we see. And then Bruce goes and sits in this sort of vast empty area in this chair, and then the scene shifts to a bunch of heroes talking, and this is where we really find out just exactly what's going on. As Spider-Man says, wait a second, I'm real confused, can you go over that again? And Doctor Strange, apparently healed from his death quite quickly, because for all I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, he's dead. The death of Doctor Strange #3 just came out the same day as this, but whatever, comic book continuity, we'll ignore it.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange is telling everybody, yeah, I know it's a lot to take in. This is why I gathered everybody, and it's really everybody. We see the Avengers, we see the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man's there, Black Panther, and Doctor Strange is like, yeah, we could be in trouble. We could be out of options. And again, we get a reference to El Paso. Clearly, something terrible happened there. Captain Marvel's asking, what was the death toll in El Paso? Captain America says, one is too many. But Strange, let's get back to what Strange was telling us. What's going on, Strange? How is Bruce doing this? Like, what exactly is going on? And this is where it's all sort of revealed. And Strange is sort of beside himself. He's like, I don't know how this is done. Like, I talked to all the most powerful magic users. I wouldn't even necessarily be able to do this myself. I talked to all the most powerful Omega telepaths on Earth. Nobody understands how Bruce was able to do this for himself. But apparently, he's fractured his mind into 3 parts. And he's basically turned the Hulk into a starship. And if that's not a WTF moment, I don't know what is. But also a very Donny Cates moment.
Yeah.
So just this idea that he's stolen technology from AIM, grafted it onto the Hulk's body, and turned him into a spaceship. I don't know. To me, it's a Donny Cates idea, right? Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we turned the Hulk himself into a spaceship? Sometimes the ideas are a little too far out there for me, a little too goofy. But I don't know if anybody can make this work. It's Cates, but my initial reaction to it is it's a little silly, and I'm not a fan of the idea. So, what are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
My initial reaction to it was the same thing. I initially thought that Donny Cates drank too much of his own Kool-Aid, but upon reflection, I'm gonna. There's gonna be a common theme in my commentary here, which might be at odds with yours, and that is that these heroes, Doctor Strange and the Avengers here, they're talking as if Banner is a threat. And I finished this issue not really knowing, how is Banner a threat? I mean, just let me say this. I think this is a very good idea that if Banner is able to change, to essentially create a starship out of his Hulk portion of his psyche, well, he's off Earth. Banner gets to be a scientist and an explorer, and he gets to do all the things he wants to do as a scientist. And he's actually caged the Hulk in this starship. And one of the aspects of the psyche that makes up the starship is the Hulk's anger. He's got it in place, and the anger fuels the ship. Okay, and that's all basically explained. Well, I think this is a good thing, isn't it? He's not going to be on Earth. He's going to be traveling in space. Isn't that the safest place for Banner and his Hulk psyche to be? So I'm not too sure. So even though it's a crazy idea, my question is, who cares? What's the big deal? I don't see what the big deal is. Let Banner be a starship, or the Hulk be a starship. Okay, cool. But I don't know what's at stake here. So he's a starship now. Okay, where's the threat? I don't see how Banner's a threat. I actually think he did something good here. He's doing something useful. He's utilizing the Hulk in a constructive way, creating a starship and flying away from Earth. Isn't that what the Avengers want anyway? Because let's face it, Hulk is always a wild card and going to be destroying things every second, third story arc to begin with. So, just
Yeah,
an
but
observation.
keep in mind when they're sitting here talking like this, they don't know that the Hulk is going to fly away, right?
Well,
He hasn't left. He's Banner is clearly in charge.
sure.
The Hulk would not be able to have the technical know-how to steal all this technology from AIM, graft it onto the Hulk's body, and turn him into a starship.
Yeah, but I
The
think
other
it's.
thing is,
Don't you think it's a little unfair that there's an undercurrent here of an assumption that Banner's a threat, that Banner's a bad guy?
I
Like Doctor
100%,
Strange doesn't even give him the benefit of the doubt, and that's what
I
I find.
100% agree with that statement. That's my point. That's one of the things I don't like about it. That's what. Not only are the Avengers presenting that, I feel like that's what Donny Cates is presenting, and that's my point. And you sort of get it, right? Like the
Yeah.
Hulk is the most destructive force. The argument could be made in the entire Marvel universe, maybe with the exception of Galactus. Um, but even Galactus can die if he doesn't feed. The Hulk apparently doesn't even need to eat. He is truly immortal if we're to believe everything we've been told over the last few years.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about the most destructive physical force in the Marvel universe, and now all of a sudden Banner is in control, but yet has done something that is even beyond the scope of Charles Xavier or Jean Grey or Doctor Strange himself, that he's
Yeah.
managed to take control and build this mind palace in the Hulk's mind. They are scared shitless. Excuse my language. They're scared to death, and they don't know what Bruce's plans are. And I think that's where the fear comes in. And it's 100% justified. But at the same time, like I said, I'm sort of tired of this Banner as a threat, Banner as we can't trust. Like even as much as World War Hulk was a great story from Greg Pak back in the day, and is I think had too much of an influence in a way over all the Hulk stories that have come
Mm.
since then, because the whole idea there, the way it started, was the Illuminati took it upon themselves to decide Banner's too big of a threat. Let's fire him off into space and get rid of him. Well, that didn't exactly work out too well, right? So now the Hulk's a
Yeah.
starship, but even if he leaves Earth, they don't see that as the end of the threat, number one. And number two, I think especially Captain America feels that Banner and Reed Richards as well, Banner and the Hulk, the Banner Hulk problem is a is the responsibility of the heroes on Earth, because they never have been able to solve it. So I totally get their fear here. But yeah, you're probably right. Next issue there'll probably be toasting and popping champagne, because apparently he hasn't just flown off Earth. He's gone much further afield,
Yeah.
and they're
And,
probably hoping good riddance.
and I just want to, I think it's worth noting here, right before right before the scene where it shows Doctor Strange sort of filling in the Avengers on what's happened, when Bruce Banner is in there, is in that captain's chair, and he's muttering to himself. It's almost like he's saying affirmations to himself. He says, the waves do not crush, the waves do not crash on me. They break on me because I am strong. So it's like he's trying to convince himself that he's strong. So there's some insecurity still in Banner, I think, here that I find very interesting, because he is separated from the Hulk, because there is that mind palace that Doctor Strange later talks about in terms of those three sort of his psyche being fractured. So there is still an insecurity that Banner has, and maybe therein lies the danger. It's the low self-esteem that Banner has, and because anger can be what saves you. I mean, anger can be a great motivator, and if Banner is constantly fractured and separated from the Hulk, that might be the danger in and of itself, because he's not whole. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that goes to what we as readers bring to the story, because I think, yeah, you can be motivated by anger, but my argument would be nothing good really ever comes from anger, not even that sort of motivation.
Yeah.
I think that kind of motivation is toxic, but that's just my own
No,
personal
that's a good
experience
point.
in
Yeah.
life. So, yeah, but you're 100% right, and that dichotomy, that is another one of the interesting ideas. Like, can Donny Cates make the Hulk Starship thing actually work and win me over with that? That's one idea. This idea that Banner he's showing one's face to even to his own angel, even to the voice of Betty in his own mind. He's showing one face to her. I'm strong. I'm taking over. I'm making the decisions. I'm going to fix this Banner Hulk problem once and for all. But then when even in his own mind, when he's all alone, he does need those affirmations because is insecure. And that moment that's the Bruce Banner I know. That's what makes him so heroic. That's what I was talking about. The fact that he always has that insecurity. That's part of who he is. It's sort of the other side of the coin of the arrogance he has, like Tony Stark, where he needs to convince himself, and even he has the self-doubt, but he always tries to fight through, and he always tries to do the right thing, and he always tries to control the raging Hulk inside of him. So yeah, I mean that is probably my favorite moment in the issue. But anyway, after we see Doctor Strange mention that what Bruce has done with this mind palace, whatever, we finally get to see what the Hulk looks like now. He's got this visor and jetpack on. It doesn't. I'm not a big fan of the design. It looks like the whole Cyclops looking helmet thing, whatever. But it's big, it's giant, it's Otley, getting to cut loose in this double page spread. And as I mentioned, he's fighting Tony Stark. He's fighting Iron Man. And as they're battling, we still get some voiceover from Doctor Strange. He's talking about how he stole the tech from AIM. He surgically implanted it on the body. He's built this mind palace. And apparently Strange was able to get inside the mind palace briefly before you got to give it to Bruce with everything he's dealt with over the years, with these different parts of his personality and psyche and different versions of the Hulk. He's actually pretty in control of his own brain when you think about it. He's even powerful enough mentally that he expelled Doctor Strange, because Strange says, yeah, I witnessed this palace in my astral form before I was cast out, and this palace, this mind palace that Bruce has built, is vast and complex, and at the very heart of it, where the Hulk's agency should be, where the Hulk's psyche should be, is Bruce, and he's just sitting there in a captain's chair. He has taken over, and the Hulk is imprisoned, and Bruce is in charge of Starship Hulk. So again, it's a fascinating idea, and I think it kind of speaks to what Rocky was saying earlier, and what he enjoys about the agency of, hey, Bruce is finally in charge here, right? He's displaced the Hulk psyche, he's displaced the Hulk's rage.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little bit of
Well,
why he's feeling so much rage himself.
or to put
At
another
least
spin
he
on
gets
it,
to be in charge.
yeah, to put another spin on it, if you ascribe to the notion that Banner and Hulk are the same, but now they're kind of separated, this is Banner owning his own rage, and which is what, look, when you take an anger management course, I mean, you got to own your rage. I mean, you got to find ways to be in control, and this is Banner fueling his own, in control. This is Banner controlling what the rage does. He's the captain of his own mind, the captain of his own ship. Isn't that what a mentally healthy person does? Because I'm looking at this in a way that looks at Banner in the best possible light in this issue. Isn't he doing what we're all doing? Aren't we all supposed to be in control of our rage? And if we have it, if we're not going to dissipate it, at least use it constructively, or use it in a way that protects us or furthers our own, needs, assuming that we're not of evil intent. And I don't know. Again, so far, so far so good here in terms of I'm not seeing anything where I'm shaking my head thinking Banner's a complete jerk here, despite the fact that Otley, every time he's drawing Banner in this issue, he draws Banner with a scowl on his face most of the time, or he's irritated, clearly trying to imply to the reader that, oh yeah, Banner must be evil, or Banner is the one that's off here. And I'm wondering, is that intentional or is that misdirection? I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but I'm having fun.
What I would say about that is 100% you're supposed to be able to accept the thing. The first, it's not to get too philosophical here, but the first thing in overcoming a problem, first way to overcome it is admit you have a problem. Banner clearly knows he has a problem, but the solution to rage isn't to lock it up and put it in a box and let it fuel you. You've got to accept that it's a part of you and incorporate it. I would say that what Cates is doing here, again, I'm only guessing, I'm not Donny Cates. and why I worry is that in a way this is a ticking time bomb. This is not the healthy way to deal with rage, is to lock it away and have it fuel you. And
But
again, I think
yeah. But was it healthy before though, Jace? Was it really healthy
no,
the way
no,
it was
100% it
before?
was not.
I
100%
mean,
it was not healthy.
I
But
mean,
my
he's
but
trying
my
something different, and so I'm just defending Banner. He's trying something different. I mean, everything the Avengers have tried in the past hasn't worked. I mean, again, I say again, I'm cutting
so
Banner more slack here, my friend. I
okay, and that's fine. But here's my point: I'm not necessarily judging this by what Banner is doing. Right? Banner only does what Donny. Banner's not a real person. Banner's only doing what Donny Cates is telling him to do, and what Donny Cates is having him do here is not a solution. It's not, in my opinion,
Mhm.
it's not putting Banner in the best light. Banner, especially with all the trauma and everything he's gone through, and all the experiences, and all the psych mumbo jumbo, and I say that with great respect. I was a psych major in college, so that's what my degree's in. Um, but Banner knows better than this, and so that's where I have the problem. That Donny Cates is being reductive in my mind, and he's dismissing, in some ways, the intelligence of Banner because Banner knows better than this. This is a lesson he has already learned. We're going over things that we've done before. Banner's already learned the lesson. You can't just lock away the rage. You've
but
got to
yeah.
learn to,
Well, he's
in the
channeling it.
words
He's using it for his own ends now. So I mean, and everything else he's done in the past hasn't
again,
worked.
Banner has learned that Banner's done this. This hasn't worked either. We're going over ground that's been trod on before. That's what I don't like more than anything about this series. The fact that from what we see so far, and granted it could be misdirection, that Banner's going to be the antagonist. You're gonna, I mean, not maybe not completely evil, but in some way he's going to be the antagonist. It's going to be Banner's fault. Banner making a mistake again with the Hulk, and we're just going over, and the idea of Hulk as a starship, which I don't really like, but maybe that'll work. Again, these are the issues that I'm having with it. But that being said, it is a really cool fight between Iron Man and Hulk, and it clearly is Banner's voice, and Banner kind of rubbing Tony Stark's face in it. You're never going to beat me. You never can beat me. Doesn't matter how many Hulkbuster armors you have. You're never going to beat me. And at one point, Tony says, "Well, hope springs eternal." And Banner, ever the cynic with the life he's led. Really, I haven't found that to be so.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyway, Tony calls in three or four more, I guess three more remote controlled Hulkbuster armors. He fires off this nano adamantium shrapnel, which is really kind of cool. So this microscopic nanotechs that are made out of adamantium, which can even on an atomic level, even penetrate the skin of the Hulk and create any shape they want. And so it basically it goes around one of Hulk's wrists, his arm. It creates this cage. And as this is happening, as Hulk's arm is being pulled down, he's being captured and rooted into place. We still get the voiceover from Doctor Strange, which says, brings me to my third part. Like we talked about, there's this element of the ship, right? Like we know that he's created a cage for the Hulk. We know that he's on the bridge and displaced the Hulk psyche. But the third element of the palace is this: the Hulk must be really angry that he's trapped in this place that Banner's trapped him. So why has Bruce caged the Hulk, and what is he doing with that rage? Like Rocky was saying, making it useful. He's where he's trapped that Hulk. It's called the engine room, and we even see it's a really cool image and another one of the cool ideas, and one of the things I like. He's got a throttle there where he basically can level up and down the Hulk's rage. He's got more control over it apparently than he ever has, and that's what's fueling the ship. Like instead of asking Scotty for more warp power, I guess you ask the Hulk for more rage. I gotta have more rage, and Bruce is in charge of that throttle. So again, interesting concept. So the Hulk, being the Hulk, of course, won't let himself be trapped with the nanites, and he actually breaks free in what I would call a very PG version, especially compared to what we had in Immortal Hulk, because he literally rips his own arm off in a brutal scene, and then attacks one of the Hulkbuster armors, rips it open. To which Tony says, "How'd you know I wasn't in there?" He goes, "I didn't." So clearly, there's another hint that all gloves are off for Bruce. He could have killed Tony Stark, and he didn't even bat an eye. So, I mean, that moment right there was probably, in my mind, where it really pushed it too far. Because that's just not Bruce Banner. I just don't think he would do that. With Tony saying, "How'd you know I wasn't in that suit?" "Well, I didn't." "Really?" So Bruce is okay with murdering people now? But anyway, getting back to some cool things, he grabs the gauntlet from this remote controlled Hulkbuster armor and slaps it on his own bones and end of his arm that he just left behind in the adamantium nanotech, and then launches himself at Bruce and breaks into this facility, or launches himself at Tony rather, and breaks into this facility that we're actually told about. And again, I didn't read all of King in Black, but apparently it has to do with the ARC project, where Tony was able to build this facility based on the Celestial and the Null armor during King in Black. And it's called the ARC, and that's the whole reason that Bruce has been fighting his way. That's been his goal. And again, maybe that plays into the fear of why the Avengers and Doctor Strange are so worried. You can talk about celestial level power in the hands of the Hulk. That's dangerous stuff. But Bruce goes on to say, "Tony, I need to borrow it." And Tony's like, "No, Bruce, it hasn't been tested. The math's not right. You could die. We have no idea where it will take you." And Bruce says, and neither will you. You won't know where I've gone. And so, like we were saying earlier, maybe they'll actually be happy that Bruce is gone, because apparently this celestial arc has the ability to take him far afield. But maybe the unknown is still a worry. And then when you look at it from Bruce's perspective, at the end of the day, maybe he's just trying to get some peace. Like I haven't been able to solve the problem of the Hulk. You guys haven't been able to solve the problem of the Hulk. I'm tired of, like he said earlier, I'm tired of only being useful. And this is Bruce saying this. I'm tired of only being useful when I'm not here. All you guys care about is the Hulk and how you can use him. Tired of being used, tired of being questioned, tired of being hunted and hounded or whatever. Maybe he just wants a moment's peace. And so he says, "Goodbye, Tony." And he enters what looks to be some sort of almost like a Stargate sort of thing. And as that happens, we get a voiceover. There's a message he left behind, and he's telling everybody, if you're hearing this, it's broadcasting because I'm already gone, and I'm not doing this to explain myself, but I'm doing it as a warning. I'm not leaving because I hate you. I'm not leaving because I'm scared of you. I'm leaving because none of you know how to deal with the problem of what I'm going to become. As bad as the Hulk has been already, to Bruce's point earlier, he's not immortal, and at some point he won't be around, and you'll just be left with the Hulk without any Banner psyche to hold him back. I think that's what Bruce's point is here. So he says, "For all your plans, your armored suits, your rockets, your ships, nobody's ever been able to stop the monster. And so we're not going to deal. You're not going to have to deal with him anymore. You're dealing with me. And I promise you, you don't have any plans for me because I'm not controlled by my rage anymore. I'm using it as fuel," which was Rocky's point earlier. He's trying to be constructive with it. But again, I'd make the argument, we've been down this path before. It never works. So certainly that last moment, that last line, that little broadcast, and the panel, if you're watching us on YouTube, the panel in the lower right corner. I'll go back one page, Rocky.
Sorry.
That could be maybe the most evil looking illustration of Bruce in the entire issue. So yeah, I mean, this monologue it felt out of character. When he says you've had all your plans, your armored suits, your rocket ships, all your ideas of how to deal with the monster if the monster gets out of hand, but you're not dealing with the monster anymore. You're dealing with me. You're dealing with Bruce, and I promise you that you can't deal with me. Like it feels very macho. It feels very bravado. It feels arrogant, which does match the character of Bruce. Maybe he's letting that arrogance come to the surface a little bit. But this monologue to me felt extremely out of character.
Well, and I think that's what's interesting, and that's why it sort of gives me pause because there's very much it's a very different Bruce Banner in that second last panel there with Bruce Banner. Ryan Otley has drawn him as he looks fairly evil there, blood coming from his eyes, his mouth. This is a very confident, extremely confident, bravado type of Bruce Banner. Compare that to the Banner earlier in the issue that is expressing the affirmation, trying to convince himself the waves do not crash on me. They break because I am strong, and he's trying to convince himself that he's strong. And then here at the end, he's saying, Banner is not controlled by his rage anymore. He is fueled. Banner's not controlled by the Hulk's rage anymore. He's fueled by it. Well, I still say that when you say that this has been done before, I just want to be clear that, I don't remember every single Hulk storyline I've ever read. So the idea that, this has been done or tried before, well, the fact is that it's, in my view, you can't give up. And wouldn't I rather have maybe a misguided Bruce Banner controlling the Hulk than a rage-filled Hulk? Because I'm not about to. I'm going to give Banner an opportunity here to do this himself. I'm going to give him another opportunity. The Hulk's had lots of opportunities. Banner's had a lot of opportunities. We know as readers that Banner's never going to cure himself of the Hulk, but I like the story is in the attempt, and there is something very interesting about this that I like the captain. He's the captain of this starship, and and the starship is the metaphor. It's the metaphor, and we that we can all draw the metaphor that can be all of us. If we were a starship, what would be the fuel of our engine? Would it be kindness, compassion, anger? We know what it is for Banner, but I like the themes here. I'm big on the themes. I like that when we review DC Comics every week. I love stories that deal with theme. I really like this here, and I'm not entirely clear where Donny Cates is going to explore that, but there's so many different layers to anger, to emotion, that Donny Cates' answer to this, I'm hoping, is going to be distinctly different than Peter David's or Al Ewing's, because there's so much that one can say when you deal with emotion, and I hope that's what's going to make this storyline, maybe save this storyline from those people that might otherwise have some negativity toward it up front. I'm not saying I'm going to love this, but I'm really captivated by the questions. Frankly, I don't disagree with anything you said, even though we in a sense we have two arguably opposing arguments here. You might be 100% correct. But either way, I'm going to enjoy the journey in terms of what we're on here. And, again, this sort of spaceship Hulk, I find it very interesting. And this mischievous kind of evil looking Banner controlling the Hulk. I don't know. It puts a shit-eating grin on my face. So I'm curious to see where Cates is going to go with this, especially since we know Cates is always over the top. Cates is clearly drinking his own Kool-Aid. He's having fun with it. Some people might think he's gone too far. I know Professor Bill of Comic Book University wasn't a big fan of this. I watched his review, and so he's got his doubts about Donny Cates on this particular interpretation of the Hulk. But I don't know. I don't know. All right, so let me ask you this, Chase. Are you cynical about this? Are you cynical about this run? Are you going to give it a chance, or
No,
or
I'm 100% going to give it and I hope I love it.
yeah?
But my biggest reservation, and as much as I thought the idea of Starship Hulk was really silly and over the top, you're right. It's 100% Donny Cates drinking his own Kool-Aid, and maybe it can work, and I can be won over, or I can disregard it because the rest of the story is good. There are at times where the characterization of Bruce Banner is well done, and I love it, especially that affirmation scene that we talked about, and getting this idea of the arrogance and this idea that maybe Bruce is just fed up and wants a moment's peace. All of that could have worked. But the biggest thing that didn't work for me, the biggest thing that had me worried, because again, what I wanted was a return to a more heroic Hulk. And whether that be, or, a Hulk comic that felt like it was more focused on the superhero aspect of the character. Now, whether that's the Hulk himself doing good and feeling like a superhero, or Bruce Banner himself with the ideas and themes of sacrifice and heroism, that's what I'm looking for, right? Despite whatever the story, that's what I want kind of the backbone to be. When I've got Bruce Banner saying, you've had all your plans, you've tried all these different things, you've never been able to stop the monster, but you're not even dealing with the monster anymore. Now you're dealing with me, and it's even emphasis. It's even larger in the text. That me is in bold and it's in larger letters. Now you're dealing with me, and I promise you have no, again, very emphasized, you have no plans for me. If that doesn't sound like a Bond villain or Darth Vader, or
Yeah.
it just sounds like something a bad guy would say, right? Like,
Yeah.
you've all had your chance. You've all tried to stop the monster. You've had your plans to do this and do that and whatever. But you know what? You're not dealing with the monster anymore. Now you're dealing with me, Bruce Banner, blah. No, like that is what flipped it for me. Like, I was trying to keep an open mind as I was reading through it, and I knew it would be over the top. This whole idea of Spaceship Hulk and whatever, didn't know how I was going to like it, but I was trying to stay neutral, and I feel like I was doing a pretty good job until I got to that last moment where he just sounds like a bad guy. It just sounds like something a villain would say. Like, the arrogance is taking over Bruce Banner. But again, I'm going to keep reading. Hulk is one of my favorite characters. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe this is going to turn out to be Donny Cates tearing Bruce Banner down to build him back up. And maybe by the end, we'll get to that superheroic feel that I want. Have my doubts, but maybe we can get there. I will say this, in terms of what Donny Cates has done in the past, it's been interesting where he took Venom from where he was to where he is now, like you mentioned. Same thing with Thor. Same thing with Thanos to some extent. This is a different animal because we talked about the Immortal Hulk was critically acclaimed. It was wildly popular. It was selling really, really well. So to jump from that to this, I wonder how people's reaction is going to work. Because they're vastly different. But at the same time, this is new reader friendly. You don't need to have read any of Immortal Hulk. You can completely disregard Immortal Hulk. Even you could skip over it completely, and just pick this up. If you haven't read Hulk in a long time, you could just pick this up. This clearly is going to live on its own. But again, I mean, I'm trying not to be disappointed because it's not, editorial at Marvel's not taking him in the direction I'd like to see him return to. And I would say that I feel like it's a it's a direction that should be returned to, because it's been like 20 years since we've had, it's been since before Greg Pak's run that we've had the kind of Hulk story that I'm talking about. And it just feels like that we're just retreading over a lot of the ideas we've had in the last 20 years. So again, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I end up loving it, and I'll be the first one to admit if I'm wrong and Donny Cates wins me over. But I just have a lot of reservations, like beyond the personal choices of the Starship thing seems kind of silly to me or whatever. My biggest problem with it is this idea that it's right there on the front cover. Could the Hulk exist to protect us from Bruce Banner? If the answer to that question is yes, and that's what this run is about, the Hulk is here to protect us from Bruce Banner, and Bruce Banner is some sort of threat, I'm not going to like it. That's just not who Bruce Banner is to me.
Yeah, well, like you said, there might be other villains at play. Doctor Strange did mention that there was a magic at play, perhaps, that even with his magics, he would not be able to duplicate what Banner pulled off. So maybe there's a nefarious, malevolent third party at play that's influencing Banner. Who knows? I mean, Cates is well known for introducing obscure new characters, certainly in his Venom run and his Thor run and with Cosmic Ghost Rider. So, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of different colors in Donny Cates' Kool-Aid supplies. So again, I mean, kudos to Cates. He's got my attention. I'm not normally a Marvel guy, but I'll be picking this up. So I'm in.
Yeah, I'll give Donny all the credit in the world for trying something new, even though there are a lot of tropes here, and I do feel like we're treading over ground we've trodden before. But there are a lot of new ideas here, and some good ones. Starship Hulk, whether I personally like it or not, at least it's a new idea. This idea of going through the celestial arc and and where he might end up is an interesting idea, even though it is kind of tropey. Kind of reminds me of the Forever Gate that we just had in the Fantastic Four, and that might be how he gets around the idea that we were talking about before of, well, now the Avengers, they know he's gone and they don't have to worry about him anymore. Pop the champagne. Well, but do they really? Because that celestial gate could have sent him anywhere. He could still be on Earth in some capacity or what have you. So I think that's maybe where the others go. Well, where's the Hulk? We don't know. It's always in the back of your mind. If they knew he was like in some other multiverse or he was gone for good, but it's always going to be the menace hanging over. And clearly in World War Hulk, we saw launching him off into space doesn't work. So even as far as you go, in a way, sort of meta when you think about it, even these heroes know that no matter what, everybody comes back. Whether it's because they died in a comic or I'm leaving Earth for good, you'll be back. Everybody comes back. Got to
Yeah.
sell more T-shirts and pillowcases and whatnot. So yeah. I mean, again, I nothing against Donnie. He's given it his all. He clearly is passionate about the story that him and Otley are telling. Personally, I think this is the best art I've ever seen Otley do. It's cleaner. Um, I know a lot of people know his art mostly from his Invincible run or his Spider-Man run. But even on Spider-Man, I feel like his art was a little looser than this. For me, I've never enjoyed Ryan's art more than I have in this issue. Um, it,
Hmm.
it just feels tighter and cleaner. Um, and the panels tend to be really big. It is somewhat of an oversized issue. I'm glad because it does allow the art to be showcased by giving us bigger panels, which if it was a 20-page comic and we had panels this size, we would have barely maybe got the beginnings of the fight with Iron Man. We wouldn't have gotten any of the celestial arc part. We would have run out of room. So I appreciated that. The color work by Frank White, I think that's who does it, right? Um, Frank
Yeah.
Martin, apologies. Yeah,
Yeah. Smart.
that was done really, really well. So yeah, and in terms of the way it looks, in terms of like high octane, was this entertaining? Yeah, it's an entertaining book. Do I like the underlying ideas? Not so far, but I'm I'm on for at least another couple of issues. I mean, let's be honest. I collect comics as much as I'm a reader. And Hulk is a run that I have going back to. Well, I don't have any of the original five, but I have down into the hundreds when it took over from, what was it, Strange Tales, I think that it took over the numbering, or Tales of Suspense maybe.
Right.
But anyway, I'm gonna I'm I'm gonna keep buying it because it's the continuation of the Hulk story, and maybe reading it in protest if I'm not liking it. And there are times where I've bought books because I wanted to continue my run unbroken, and I actually stopped reading until a new writer came on. Very rarely will I do that because if I'm spending the money on it, I might as well read it. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope this ends up being my favorite big two book that Donnie's ever done. Because like I said, I enjoy more of his independent stuff than I typically do his superhero stuff. His crossover series is great. Love Baby Teeth. Um, was it God Country was another one that he did that I really
Yeah.
enjoyed.
God
So
Country's excellent.
yeah, so yeah, I hope I'm wrong and he wins me over. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I'll be curious. Like I said, we're recording this on Wednesday. It just came out, so I tried to read several reviews to get kind of a gauge, and it seems to be about 50-50, maybe 60-40 toward the negative. More people are not enjoying it, but first issues are hard to do. And even with the extra um, pages here, like I said, it didn't feel like we got extra story. It just felt like the panels were a little bigger to let that Otley art shine, which is totally valid. So, get back to me when we're done with the first arc, and I might be like, oh man, I can't believe that I was bad mouthing this. And I feel like I'm being objective. I don't feel like I'm crapping on it. I feel like my objections are valid, but I hope we come back when the first arc's over and say, man, look at all this stuff he planted in the first issue that we didn't realize was a seed for this, and now it's totally working for me. And Banner's, the most heroic person in the entire Marvel universe, which I feel like I said, other than maybe Peter Parker, he is. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe again, my love of the TV show and Bill Bixby and all that just colors it. So I'll remind everybody one more time: go check out that documentary on YouTube. And Peacock is free, the NBC app. You can watch. They have all the episodes of the original Hulk TV series are on
Yeah,
Peacock. You can watch them if you've never seen them. They're great. So,
yeah. But no,
anything else to add, Rocky?
I'm just like I said, I'm giving Banner the benefit of the doubt. We love it when the Hulk gets angry, but then suddenly we're supposed to be judgmental when Banner loses his temper, or maybe gets a little pissed off, or exercises some of his own initiative and does something arguably a little bit off the beaten path on the side of Angels. I mean, no, I'm cutting Banner some slack, and and until I see otherwise, I'm gonna forgive his scowls and his anger in this issue, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what Donny Cates has in store for us. So, either way, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, at least Donnie didn't push it too far. Banner still got his faculties because as much as I
Yeah.
like the Peter David run, there was um, there was a story that David did. There was a kind of I'll say a mini era where he basically made the Hulk Banner, but with the Hulk's persona. And what I mean by that, so when he would get angry, he would turn back instead of turning into the Hulk, he would turn back into Banner because this was right after the Professor Hulk era where he was the Hulk, but he maintained all of Banner's personality and intelligence. And then something happened where when he would get angry, he would turn back into Banner and he would be like completely mindless monster, but in the body of Banner. And they had to put him in a straitjacket because his body, he would hurt himself, when he's trying to punch while he break bones and everything because he was acting with the Hulk's rage and mindlessness, but in a normal human body, which, you'll kill yourself pretty quickly if you're trying to punch brick walls and whatever. So at least Donnie didn't take it that far. It's so as much as I'm saying we've seen some of these things before, he is putting a new twist on it. And so, yeah, I hope it works for us all in the long run. So, anyway, anything else you want to plug? Rocky, I know you've had some recent content come out on your channel.
Well, I just I sort of previewed the February 2022 solicitations. You can check that out, and of course, it's my collaboration with you every week. We review this week's DC Comics for November 23rd. People can check that out, and yeah, until next week. I don't plan on putting anything out until probably our next DC review. But there's plenty on my channel to check out if you're bored.
Yeah, so if you're listening to us audio only, be sure you head over to YouTube, do search for Comic Boom, Comic Space Boom, exclamation point, give Rocky's channel a subscription so you can check out when he puts out new content, ring that notification bell so you get notified. Like this video, all that stuff really helps us produce content for you guys and get more access and all that stuff. Conversely, if you are checking us out on the YouTube channel and you're curious about the other content we put out on the Comic Source audio only, just go to your favorite podcasting app or favorite podcasting platform and search for the Comic Source and subscribe so you're sure not to miss out on any of that stuff. So Thanksgiving's coming up. It's tomorrow as I sit here and record this in the U.S. So happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners. Hope you guys get to eat some turkey, watch some football, and enjoy some time with family. So as always, appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.